Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Journey Canvas podcast channel. Today, I have two special guests, Magalam Suresh and Raghunandan Vasudevamurthy, who came from an IT background. We'll discuss about their entrepreneurship and their journey in setting up a cold press oil business. And also, we'll discuss its benefits. So, let's get started. Hi, Raghu and Suresh. Welcome to the Journey Canvas podcast channel. Thank you for joining on a Saturday. So, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey. And both of you come from an IT background, and you're an entrepreneur and founder of the Hita Healthcare, which is into cold press oil business. So, let's start with you, Suresh. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey?
Yeah,
What brought you here?
thanks, Vinay, for giving us an opportunity. My partner Raghu and I. So we were working at PwC. Giving my background, I got almost like 30 plus years of experience in IT field. Worked for almost 17 years in the US before returning back to India, and worked in some of the MNC companies, and PwC was one of them. Thus, I happened to become a buddy, close friend, a close confidant, uh, Raghu. I started off my journey as a programmer and then finally ended as a director in PwC. Has got almost 26 plus years of experience in customer relationship management, and of that 16 plus years of experience in Salesforce alone, where I have uh, incubated or started the company portfolio in Salesforce and grew the accounts and grew the team there before I jumped into Hita Healthcare. Hita started its journey 4 years back, and so we are into manufacturing cold press oil. We'll talk about it later. And thus, I know Raghu for more than 9 years. And as I mentioned, we are the partners in Hita Healthcare Private Limited. Thank you.
Very nice. How about you, Raghu? Suresh mentioned you both met at PwC, and you also come from an IT background, IT consulting background. So, what made you both think like, oh, we want to do something totally different. We want to be entrepreneurs, and we want to get into cold press oil, which is like opposite end of spectrums, right? Yeah, you're helping clients, you're helping customers. Here, your customer base is large, which is the world. So, yeah, tell us about yourself and what brought you to cold press oil business.
Sure, Vinay. So first of all, thanks for giving this platform for us to express about it. And yes, we come from. I personally carry about 20 to 23 years of IT experience, and predominantly it has been with the consulting firms, the KPMG offshore Bearing Point, and then PwC acquired Bearing Point, and that's how we both met at Bearing Point. And Suresh and I, we happened to become good friends, and we used to discuss several things, and then we also became good friends at lunch, coffee, tea, whenever we used to take walks, and then we used to discuss about some of the societal related problems, such things and all. And at one point in time we felt that we could see about some of the contamination in the food space, food industry, and then we also at one point in time thought that, see, one is I don't for sure we cannot boil the ocean, but at least our friends and family, our near ones and dear ones, if we are able to make a difference with them, I think that will be something like an achievement for us. So we should be able to give good food, and as people say always, right? So it's like healthy body, healthy mind, and healthy society. And so that was the concept for us, or that was the motto for us to step into, especially this kind of entrepreneurial journey. And none of us had any kind of experience in this, especially with this food, and we had our own set of challenges, but it was a great learning all the way for us.
Very interesting. And the day you decided, yes, I want to get into the cold press oil business, right? So how did you start? Like, did you just go talking to people? Like, how was it made? Did you visit other units where they make cold press oil? How did you figure all this out?
Basically, for in the beginning, it wasn't sure that if at all if we would venture into cold pressed oil at all. One thing we were sure was something about edible and food related stuff. And then also we realized that edible oil is something which is a highly contaminated part of it, and the oil industry. We started unearthing, we started reading, discovering things, and then came to know as to how toxic
Mhm.
something called as refined oil is. And we felt that I think difficult ones are the ones which people don't take, and easier ones are the ones people will attempt. So why don't we get into the manufacturing of cold pressed oil? And at the same time, we started interacting with certain universities in US, China, and then we wanted to understand how historically oil was being milled and what were the factors that could probably make the quality of the oil good or bad. And with those kind of research things and all, and at the same time, I started sort of browsing about some of the machineries and all. And this went on for almost four plus months. And then when I discussed this with Suresh, so Suresh was very interested as well in this. And so even before we officially uh, had Hita company to be created, Suresh and I traveled a lot to Chennai, those places and all, to do some kind of research about the machineries and all. And over a period of time, one thing was sure for us, that we should begin the journey and the path will show by itself, because we have clarity in what we want, and naturally we should be able to figure out the path. Of course there would be challenges, and there can be circumstances that could be demotivating or whatever, but nonetheless the path was sure for us, and that's how we jumped into it.
Right.
Suresh,
And
you
and
could
someone
probably top it up.
No, I think that's the right thing to say that, like, how did we get in? And we were very clear in the objective that we wanted to get into healthcare. It has got many segments, and we could have taken, as Raghu mentioned, we can't boil the ocean. So it can be water, it can be milk product, it can be food grains, or many, many things that came to our mind. But then finally we said that we wanted to focus on oil because we got to know that it is completely adulterated. And a lot of people, unfortunately, in health industry, what happens is the repercussions, what we see is after the fact, and it takes long time before you get to know that you have fallen sick, right? And you cannot pinpoint to one particular thing to say that, okay, that's the one that created it. But certainly
Mhm.
oil was the most adulterated, that what we could see. And then we said that, like, how it was being done in the past in India, like, long time back, where my grandparents or my parents, they were taking all these oils and all that stuff. So that study went on for some time, and Raghu, a brainchild was this. But one thing that what we wanted to do very clear was to build the confidence. And we knew, we worked out our financial model and all, we'll talk about that. So we wanted to bring out something that people can trust, because both of us don't come from a business background. We do not have anything to do with oil till we started. And how do you build that trust? And it's a commodity. It's not one of those things. So we were very clear is that we will show what we are doing, we'll build the trust. You believe it or not, we did not spend any money on our marketing, and only through the trust and the objective, having the clarity, we are able to sustain for the last 4 years. And we have almost like 2000 plus or even more unique customers, and repeat customers are almost like 50 to 60% of them, right? That's the way that what we are doing.
Wonderful. And somebody once told me, like, success is not reaching destination or getting to the destination. It's a journey which you take to get to the destination. So
Yeah.
when I've heard of two kinds of like, or three kinds. Like, one is refined oil and the cold pressed oil, and also wood pressed oil. So what's the difference between wood pressed and cold pressed? Is it one and the same, just synonymous, or they are totally different?
Yeah, let me take it first and then I will give it to Raghu. So, when the oil is extracted at the room temperature,
Mhm.
it's called cold press oil. And now, when you talk about the wood, how do you extract the oil? Either you can use the wood, or you can use the stone, or you can use the cast iron. There are different ways to do it. But when you use the wood and the stone, the temperature does not rise. So they are the most healthiest oils. When you use the cast iron, naturally because of the friction between the box or between the container and the pedal, the temperature rises if you use the cast iron. And still some people they call it as cold press oil because it increases by 5 to 10 degrees or whatever, like 5 degrees centigrade to 10 degrees centigrade type of a thing, but still they call it as cold press oil, right? That's the thing. So cold press oil, the definition by definition is extracting the oil at the room temperature without any additives. That's the most important thing. That's what is known as a cold press oil. Now, when you come to the refined oil is chemically processed, high temperature extraction. But when the oil comes out, it comes cold. It does not come like boiling oil, right? But when during the extraction, the process of extraction, the material is heated to 250 to 300 degrees centigrade, and the raw material is chemically processed either to neutralize it or to decolorize it or to do anything like that. And what happens because of this process, the nutrients that are naturally available, they will get lost. But then they add it as additives. So there are multiple ways like cold press oil, refined oil. These are all the multiple ways of extracting the oil.
Interesting. And do you know what chemicals they use in refined oil?
I don't know what chemicals they use, like the name. I don't remember, but certainly most of the refined oils, if you turn it around and see, they add an additive called anti-foaming agent. That is the reason. The reason is because naturally when you heat the oil bubbles. But people have a wrong conception when something bubbles, because when you use the soap powder, when it bubbles, when you soak your clothes, you think that the bubbles take away the dirt. Similarly, they think that when oil bubbles naturally, they think that it is having the dust or it is contaminated. But that is not true.
Mhm.
Naturally, the oil bubbles when you don't
Okay.
add anything. But they add additives. There are some studies which say that anti-foaming agent is not good. It has to be used in a limited fashion because it becomes sometimes carcinogenic. There are some studies which say that it's okay to use. So it all depends upon, and there is no conclusive thing, but certainly it has got its own place in the oil. It's called 902A or 900A or something like that. At the back of
Mhm.
each of the oil packet, you will see that they would have mentioned that anti-foaming agent 900A or something like that is added, right? So that's the way that the refined oil, and then they add back the additives or the colors or whatever the thing is, the nutrients, because they would have neutralized the
The
whole thing.
process.
Yeah. And we have to understand the oil becomes toxic when you heat it, at a very high temperature, or you use the heated oil again and again. It
Mhm.
is by nature it becomes toxic. When I say toxic, it nutrients will get eliminated, its fatty acids will become more strong, and as you consume it, it is bad for health. As simple as.
So,
Right, right.
where are you located? Where is Hita Healthcare located?
We have it in the locality called as Banshankari, which
Hmm.
is fairly closer to both Suresh and I. And the other reason was that's one of the areas where we felt that the overall demography in terms of the education and understandability of people is good or slightly higher. And one of the reasons where we felt that, another thing about these cold pressed oil and such things is a lot of education is required for people. Someone would not really understand why a non cold pressed oil, when it is available at the 50% price of this, what's the difference and why is it that someone has to pay a premium and buy this. So uh, this entrepreneurial journey, it demanded us a lot to educate people, customers about it. So Suresh and I, we've gone to certain forums, platforms, we've spoke about it, we've gone to health clubs, we've gone to gyms, and we've educated people about it. So that's how we felt that locality should help us. And at the same time, this being end of the day consumer product, right, it has its own it takes its own sweet time by the time people get to know about it and realize. So word of mouth is best. A particular user who has been using and all. And yeah, so basically, yeah, sorry to digress, but as you mentioned, so it's a locality called as Banshankri, and the reasons that I mentioned, that was the purpose for us to select that place.
Right. And
Yeah,
I
it's
think
Panishankari in Bengaluru.
Bengaluru. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. And I love that place. Reminds me of my childhood. So, what does the word Hita mean? Does it signify anything?
Yeah, Hita has a meaning, something called as uh, it is synonymous of well-being or something which is soothing. And
Hmm.
generally Suresh and I, we both are quite religious, and we listen to certain discourses and all. And one of the gurus that I follow, so he was always telling that this is a Sanskrit term, by the way.
Hmm.
uh, there is something called as Priya, and there is something called as Hita. So
Hmm.
Priya is something which I like, and Hita is something which I may not like, but it is
Hmm.
really soothing, and which is which happens to be good for the person. So that is Hita. One classic example that I can say is a diabetic person, when he is
Hmm.
suggested not to eat sweets, but he likes sweets. So then that is something called as Priya. But is it Hita to him? No, it is not. So that means Hita is something like well-being.
Got it. That's, I mean, in the Gen Z words, probably all these days everything is smart, like smartphone, smartwatch, everything, right? So you also want to be smart in your mind, right? And also think futuristic, in a way that, like, do you want to like spend less and go for the refined oils out in the market, or maybe spend a little bit more, take care of your health, and pay less to the doctors,
Absolutely.
right? That
Absolutely.
that was great. Like, anything else you would like to add there, Suresh?
So as Suresh also mentioned earlier, right? When we visited one of the nutritionists, celebrity nutritionist,
Hmm.
Suresh, I think she's in Jainagar, right? When we had gone there,
Yes.
so she had put a punchline there in her office that if you feel preventive healthcare is expensive, try falling sick.
Wonderful.
So
So when it comes to the price point, right? Like, and also compared to the other competitors in the market, right? Who are also manufacturing cold press oil. So where do you stand? Like, are you equal to them? Are you pricier than them? Just give us some statistics around that.
Yeah. Yeah. I will go with that. So When you say something is expensive, you need to have some sort of a scale. You are comparing with something to say that you are expensive, more expensive or less expensive. So now when we are talking about it's expensive, it's more expensive than refined oil. Absolutely, it is going to be expensive. I'll give you a simple math and I will talk about it why it is expensive. So here, the oil, the edible oils, what we manufacture, they are extracted naturally. There are no additives, there are no chemical processing, there is nothing. So you get the seeds, good quality seeds or the raw material, and then try to extract it. Okay? And since you are extracting naturally, by God's this limitation or whatever you want to call, each product gives certain amount of oil naturally. For example, if I take groundnut oil, which is nothing but peanut oil, you need almost like uh, 10 to 12 pounds, which is nothing but 2.5 kgs
Mhm.
that you need to get either 1 liter or 33.8 ounces of oil. Okay. Now, if I were to be taking the coconut oil, we need approximately 4.4 pounds, which is nothing but 2 kgs of coconut to get 33.8 ounces of oil. It's by nature. You can't change it. If you are doing anything more and you are trying to get anything more, you are doing something, right? Now, likewise, olive oil has its own thing, properties. Then you have sesame oil, it has its own properties. If I were to be taking a simple math that 2.2 pounds of coconut cost me $2, I need 4.4 pounds of coconut, which is nothing but 2 kgs. I need my raw material cost itself is $4. If I am able to give 33.8 ounces, that's 1 liter of coconut oil at $2, then something has to ring in our mind. How is that possible? Because the raw material itself is $4. No matter how much bulk you buy, it can never come down to 50% of the cost of the raw material itself.
Right. So it's proportional to
So
the raw material cost.
it's proposed just proportional to the raw material, plus you have the operational cost, right? The land, the machinery, the wear and tear, the people who are working, all those things, electricity, blah, 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 all those things are there. So you add it up, the math does not match. And on the top of that, when it comes to the retail shop, each of the intermediaries, they have their own cut. They have 20%, 15% margin, right? Depending upon the number of levels that what we have. Now, if on the shelf itself it is $2 and the retail shop is taking 20% of the cut, so you take out 2%, 20% of 2 is almost like 40 cents. And then the distributor takes out on the top of that 20% of 1.6, which comes to $1.3. So that means the manufacturer is giving it 1.3. By the time it comes to the shelf, it is showing it as $2. But the raw material for 2.2 pounds itself is $2. How is that the manufacturer is able to produce at $1.3? Is the question to be asked, or is the question, it's the thought of the day that somebody has to think? And normally the consumers, we won't be thinking like that, because that's not how we have. So this is where the math goes, correct? Point number one. And if you are paying 50% more compared to the refined oil, and even if you are paying $2 per liter and you're consuming $6 a month, and for 12 months you are paying $72, and for 10 years you are paying $720, think of falling sick. $720 is just one or two visits, or even a single visit to a doctor,
Yeah, one visit like $240 just to
something
visit
like that.
the
And
medical.
then on the top of the medication, your health goes down and you get into the vicious circle.
Right.
This is the simple math,
Yep.
right? So now that is where the cost difference is coming in cold press oil.
Hmm.
Why? It is expensive. It is expensive. Transactionally, it is expensive. But if you take the 360-degree view of your health, of your life, it's not expensive at all. That's my take.
Yep. And that's very synonymous with your company's name, Hita, right? Like, and Priya, like that was so beautifully explained. I'm going to put that um, theory or logic into everything I do going forward.
Yeah.
And what about the quality of seeds, Suresh? Like, how does that impact? Like, is every seed you get the same quality? It just tastes different, or any difference in those?
Yeah, we have gone, Raghu and I have visited multiple places, have gotten connected with different farmers, and again, the way like you need to, not all the peanut seeds will give oil. There are certain peanut seeds category that give oil. There are certain things you got to be, it has to be dried. There is a scale to measure the moisture content, how much it should have. All those things are very, very important before you extract. Similarly, when you are getting the coconut, we got to know that we went to I don't know, they call it as a big coconut vendor,
Warehouse.
right? With a warehouse. Thank you, Raghu. Where we got to know that the coconut, you need to dry the coconut first. The coconut drying mechanism, it can be sun dried, or it can be dried using sulfur.
Sulfur
So,
scares me.
so they use sulfur to dry the coconut, because it takes time to do the sun drying of the coconut. But I need massive production, so I use sulfur, right? When I say I, the warehouses, they do use sulfur, and they dry it, and sulfur gets into the coconut, which is very, very dangerous, which is very hazardous. But the oil color does not differentiate; it's the same. So we need to know the nuances of how and what sort of quality of seeds, what sort of nuts that what we are getting. It's very, very important. Unless otherwise we go deep into that, it'll be very difficult for the consumer to know. You will see only the oil, but what sort of oil, right? Point number one.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
getting goosebumps as you're speaking. It's
And
so much of hidden facts people don't know.
yeah, the other thing is, as what we can see naturally, all the seeds all the time, they are, like when it's grown, they are not of the same color.
Mm.
Just to give a synonym, not all human beings are having the same skin color. It's the same thing with the seeds also. So when it is naturally extracted, there are lots of customers who come and ask, there is a slight difference between this batch groundnut, especially groundnut, to this batch groundnut or peanut oil. Why is it? By nature, it is like that. If you neutralize everything, then you add the additive, everything will become the same. If you do not neutralize it and you naturally extract it, you will see very slight difference, 2%, 3%, but certainly you will be able to see sometimes the difference between the color of the oil itself. And nothing to be worried. If it is genuinely done, you have done your homework, and the customer has come and washed, and you have the trust, it is but natural to have that difference.
Right. Very well said. Thank you, Suresh and Raghu. This was a great conversation. I really enjoyed. Personally, I enjoyed every bit of it, and it was so educational. And it's an eye opener. It's definitely an eye opener. I never knew what I consume has so many things in it, and I need to really research before I take anything. Maybe like something edible or anything I buy. What is the is it made ethically, right? And what is the intent behind it? So many factors I learned. I really thank you both coming on a Saturday evening and having a conversation.
Anytime. Pleasure is ours.
Thank,
Thanks for
thanks,
providing a
Vinay.
platform for us.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving us an opportunity. I hope it reaches